give us a sense of what you are really at the moment taking away from, not what Larry Fink just said, but generally the discourse surrounding the whole monetary policy side of things. And, you know, where do they go next? And the point being, is this whole idea of there being a soft landing or no landing, in effect, people living in cloud cuckoo land?
Interesting. I mean, I think our view is that in the short term, at least, the 10-year bond yields may hit higher because of the U.S. budget deficit, because of inflation expectations, and so on. And, you know, I mean, the higher for longer rates will eventually impact the economy. The fiscal transfers that we had because of the pandemic will are slowly wearing down. Monetary policy has been tight. Credit conditions are tightening. So we see a recession in the U.S. probably sometime in the first half of next year. You know, we think it's not going to be a severe recession. It's probably going to be 2 quarters of negative growth before the economy kind of rebounds. But, you know, nevertheless, we think that the higher for longer rates, the tighter fiscal policy going forward, the higher bond yields, at least in the short term, will all come to roost and impact the economy and cause a slowdown, a recession, probably in the first half of 2024.
Okay. How do you approach fixed income then?
Well, you know, I mean, our view is that, yes, you know, we've got lots of uncertainties in the short term, oil prices, higher interest rates, recession, you name it. We've got a whole slew of factors at play over here. But we take a view that, you know, if you take a medium-term view, in other words, 18-month view, 24-month view, there's a good likelihood that the Fed could pivot to a more dovish stance, that the Fed could cut rates perhaps in the second half of next year or even early 2025. You know, if you take that view, that inflation will eventually come down, and it has been trending down, we have seen disinflation, then, you know, monetary policy is going to be loosened, interest rates will be cut. And historically, if you go back to the 1980s, when the Fed did that, the stock markets rallied, and it didn't just rally for 12 months. It went on with a 3 to 4 year rally. So I think there's hope if investors are prepared to take a view for the medium term. But in the short term, you've got to be ready for a lot of volatility.
Vasu, I was going to ask you, Stan Chart's Eric Robertson had a good take on the U.S. 2-year, saying this is the all-weather security now. We could bring up the quote, but basically I'm going to summarize it, basically saying, you know, you're offering a yield above 5%. There's a beacon of light that has emerged here because it's not just an insurance policy, but you can also reduce risk and get paid to do so. Is the short end of the curve still sort of that sweet spot right now?
Without a doubt. I mean, I think you see quite a lot of money gravitating towards the short end of the curve, without a doubt. But, you know, I think you don't want to throw all your money into the short end of the curve as well, simply because yields are high right now, interest rates are high right now. But if you take a view of 12 months, 18 months, if the economy does slip into a recession or a very sharp slowdown, then the Fed will pivot, interest rates will come down, bond yields will come down, and then it makes more sense to, you know, be positioned in the longer end of the curve. Because typically, you know, longer end of the curve tends to do better when we have a recession and when interest rates are cut.